Yo guys, what you saying? It is your boy MASOOD. Welcome back to another episode of the Khana Prep podcast. Fortunately, I don't know what episode this is because we took 2 weeks off. This is going to be uploaded next week.
Episode 5.
Episode 5? Yeah. Better check it now, isn't it, bro?
Yeah.
No. So, obviously, we took last week off. Obviously, I hope everyone has had a happy holidays, happy festive period. Coronavirus is lingering, it's knocking on our doorsteps, if that's a phrase. I don't know, I was trying to make a phrase there, but it didn't work out. But it's lingering. Hope you guys stay safe. But yeah, no, we're back. Obviously, how was your holidays and that?
Yeah, my holidays were good. First and foremost, welcome back to another episode here. My holidays were really, really, really exciting, actually. It's the only time of the year where everybody's off. Obviously, I don't, really celebrate Christmas, but it was a good time to have everybody with family together. My sister was around. My parents went to Pakistan, and yeah, had a lot of fun.
Wasn't there a tree in your house?
No, there wasn't. I promise
Okay.
you. Promise you.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I promise you.
Also, there was like a bit presents around the tree and that.
No,
You don't do that.
No, I don't do that.
I must have been someone else's house then. Must have been my own house. What? No, astaghfirullah. Don't do that stuff, bro. I mean, I don't do that stuff. And you do what you want. But yeah, no. Basically, obviously, imminently coming out with a new menu.
Yeah,
That's hot topic.
But we'll talk about that at the end, isn't it?
Oh, we'll talk about now. We'll talk about now. No, we'll talk about at the end. MOHSIN. Yeah, those guys you don't know. MOHSIN is quite a structured person, and reason why. Before this podcast even started, like to this very podcast, like we were like downstairs, like we were recording upstairs in the room. We were downstairs figuring out what to talk about because it was like, bro, I was like, listen, whatever happens, something needs to go out, bro. I don't mind taking a break for Christmas, for festive period. Like fair enough, everyone's on holiday, it makes sense. But I want to kind of keep the momentum of content being uploaded on the YouTube, especially. So I was like, well, I don't care what we record. We need to record something and just put it out there and that. And so we were just downstairs coming up with ideas and topics, literally like 5 minutes ago before we start recording on what to talk about. And MOHSIN's like quite structured. He's like wants to know exactly the minute and time when we start talking about something and stop talking about something. How come you like that?
Nah, that's not true. You see, they say one of the things they say nowadays that once something is out in the public, it's there to haunt you for many years.
Good leader, isn't it?
So I think I've always been, and that's probably because of my training, in just from the Islamic perspective side of things, to be very careful about what you say, how you say things, and just in case, because once something's out, you don't really have the opportunity to clarify yourself. You want to say something factual. You don't want to say something that's just total nonsense. And I know a lot of things out there, people like saying for the sake of controversy. Some people have the bandwidth to do that. I don't really have that bandwidth. I don't really have the capacity to handle that. I've got a lot of things happening in my life. And then to sit there getting people giving me death threats is not something
But people are going to take their perspective on things you say anyways. Like,
that's true.
They can have a different perspective.
You've probably heard the saying, isn't it? That, before... I've completely forgot the saying. But basically, the gist of it is that you tie the camel first. You tie your camel and then you leave everything else.
Who's camel?
Huh?
Who's camel?
So you can't be like, oh, look, somebody's gonna kind of rob you anyways. Just leave the front door open. So you've got to take precautions, and that's my opinion. Everyone should take precautions, think about what they say, and understand.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's what my structure is. I like talking off the spot.
Yeah.
But when it's gonna go out on the platform, I think you need to be a bit more careful.
You're not really, is it fair to say that you're not really as comfortable on camera as most people? That's why you take extra precaution.
I can give you my honest opinion.
Go on. Please be honest.
I think a lot of people on camera shouldn't be on camera.
Okay.
I think a lot of people are comfortable being on camera and they shouldn't be on camera and they shouldn't be that comfortable. Because just because you have an audience... and just because you're comfortable in camera doesn't necessarily mean what comes out of your mouth is of any worth. That's not to say that a lot of people who are on camera don't say things that are worthy of listening to. They are. But I'm saying that a lot of people who do talk, they talk with little input. So, that needs to be taken into consideration. So I am comfortable, provided that I know that what I'm talking about has some level of thought behind it.
So you don't like just throwing on the camera and just starting a conversation?
No, because you see, if this camera wasn't
We
here,
might as well stop the podcast, then, you know what I mean, bro? What's the point?
if the camera wasn't here, and me and you were talking, we'd just probably talk about whatever, right? You know, just for jokes. But they say that when you have a camera, the audience is not is not us. The audience is everybody else. The whole world is the audience now for that podcast. So you have to make sure that you're not offending people unnecessarily. Of course, people will take things out of context anyways, but you should take things in. You should prepare for what you're gonna say. Not saying script it, but you should prepare, isn't it?
No, I'm loosely in the same boat. Say, for example, if we do have a guest on, I'm not just gonna wing it and be like, yeah, man, mate, what do you want to talk about? I'm not gonna be like that. Obviously,
of course.
It's gonna be not structured, but there's gonna be topical points where I would cover. Like there would be something written down where I would look over to and be like, okay, let's talk about this, let's talk about that, let's write a few key questions down on what we need to talk about.
Sure.
I'm structured in that sense, but I'm not like the other day. Like I remember, like we were going over. Like I remember we were recording for Al Miftar, and we were doing like script pieces for a show that you guys were working on, and Idris gave me a script. And I couldn't read the script. First of all, bro, I'm dyslexic. I don't know why he gave me a script, bro. You know what I mean? I'm dyslexic, bro. I don't know why he gave me a script, bro. I can barely read it. But no, I had to read that script and memorize it and say it on camera. I can't do that. I can't look at a script and be like, this is the exact format you need to say. There's no flexibility. We can't do that. I can't do that.
I agree with you. Neither can I. I can never work off a script.
Yeah.
I'm talking about something's called loose structure. You know, in your mind, okay, we're gonna be dealing with these points. It just gives some time to think about. You know, thinking without any structure is basically nonsense.
Yeah.
No, just with due respect, you know what I'm saying. I know you do a lot of it, but that's fine. Go on.
No, I don't, bro.
I'm joking.
But yeah, man, cool. There was a few things happening in the media today. We just wanted to cover it. Hopefully, we can draw some health benefit from health type of talk or a business talk, something related. You know, both of us can talk about that. But a key business actually talk that I did want to talk about was, I don't know if you heard, obviously the Jake Paul and Dana White situation.
Okay.
It happened a couple of days ago. Jake Paul put out a tweet or a series of tweets challenging Dana White to a bet, saying, I don't know, I can't remember exactly from the top of my head where it was, but it was like, I accept your challenge if the UFC does equal fighter pay, if the UFC fighters get $50,000 as standard per fight, and in the crux of the whole tweet was basically Jake Paul raising the awareness that UFC fighters don't get paid equally, basically, and Dana White responded, said dodged all those claims and said, you're telling me that I sniff coke. I heard you take steroids, but he basically dodged the whole thing and didn't address the crux of the fighter pay. I wanted to know from your point of view. Say if I gave you an example in it, you're Dana White, you're the president of the UFC, biggest fighting organization in the world, probably most talked about, most tweeted about. You got a line of fighters who are big time. What's your opinion? How would you go about it from a business point of view? Are you quite well? I mean, obviously you got briefed in like 5 minutes ago. What happened? But basically, what's your opinion? Because obviously the main thing is the UFC. People argue the UFC is making enough money where it can pay happily its fighters fairly, but it's not. So
look, tough question, but one thing I have to say, before anything, was Jake Paul, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a marketing machine.
Yeah.
Right. Whoever, I don't know if it's their own business acumen themselves or they've got advisors behind them, wherever it is. But they're a marketing machine, right? And there is no shadow of a doubt that by putting these claims forward to Dana White, they are basically getting on the map, but they're already on the map. But as in now they're getting on a bigger map, right? So obviously, I hear that Jake Paul is, he's started a boxing career, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, so he's trying to make himself important. He's trying to make, and I think this is a very smart strategic point from his perspective to get support from UFC fighters, because he's a boxer. not in the traditional sense, right? If I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was a YouTuber or something like that beforehand, and he's like, okay, I can, I'm a problem child.
Accidentally fell into boxing,
and he started training. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people have a lot to say about YouTuber fighters and stuff like that, whatever the case is. But long story short, to train for any fight is hard work. I've got a little bit of experience in mixed martial arts. I did that for a few years. I'm looking to make a return on that as well. So fighting it's a lot of work, whichever camp, whether you're a good boxer or not a good boxer, whether you're just doing it for the money, whether it's a lot of work. How many weeks you're going for? But he's a marketing genius. That whole family, right?
Yeah, they are. They know
by calling out Dana White, they've got people like myself. They've got my wife, yeah. Right, my wife Anissa, one of the directors of khanaprep here as well, yeah. Like she has no interest in any of this, yeah. Even she's heard about this, right? So again, look,
that's crazy.
That's crazy. Like, isn't she has no interest in fighting whatsoever.
They've got the casuals tuning
exactly
into it.
Right? By and I think it's a smart strategic point. What I would do as if I was the business, look, it's very hard to answer that question without knowing the ins and outs of from a business perspective, right? I mean, if they can pay more and if they should pay more, right? Generally speaking. But I guess maybe it's a business strategy from UFC's perspective that they only leave those budgets for the very, very, very big fights. Because if those budgets were made available for all the fights, again, I'm speaking out of turn here. Then the question is, what would be an incentive for somebody to fight for the biggest fights, for the biggest purses? I guess the title is one of them, but a big part of it is like, I'll take the big fight, I'll go for the title, and I'm getting a big, I've got something to.
It's not. I think it's not more say a big purse. Like basically, from my research that I've basically conducted is. Apparently, the basic UFC bout, like a beginner, like a very low rank fighter, I think that he gets paid $12,000 for their fights, which people might listening be like, 12 grand, that's bare, bro, for just a fight. My brother, well, to be honest, you understand, they have to. It's not like boxing where you hire a cut man, you do a little bit of whatever you do. There's not a lot of things like it's more like independent with boxing. Like you can kind of control and manage the cost. If you're under the UFC roster, you're using their gyms, you're using their facilities. Yeah, I mean you're in the UFC name. You gotta be at a particular camp. Like there's the Eagles and there's like a particular wrestling camps and everything like that. That I feel like I might be speaking out of turn, but I feel like. From my point of view, because how heavily linked they are with the UFC, I feel like they may have like some sort of partnership with them. Because there's always like the same wrestling camps that go with the American Eagles or.
So wait, explain this to me. So you're saying that when a UFC fighter trains, they have to train in their facilities. They can't train in the independent facilities.
I'm not sure. That's I don't want to say it again. But
well, I guess somebody will correct us.
So may correct us.
Definitely.
But the point is, $12,000, like that's like £8,000 for a UFC fighter. For judging the amount of things that can go wrong to these fighters in the ring is.
How many fights should they get a year?
Well, it depends how popular they are.
But just generally on average, are you going to get more than 3 fights a year?
Well, I think every time a fight happens, it has to happen on a card, innit? The card needs to be made, and then it's sold to pay-per-view. Well, I think the UFC's business model is different now. Before, it used to be predominantly pay-per-view. So every time there was a massive event, that's when you would have the opportunity to fight on the card.
Okay.
And they'd have to, and that was the main way that the UFC would make its money.
Sure.
But now UFC recently signed an agreement with ESPN, the sports broadcaster, where ESPN will pay them flat fee regardless whatever, but they just contract to do I think 49 fights a year or something like that, 30 or 40 fights a year. They have to do it, and they'll give them a fee. That's a revenue stream that they don't need to really worry about and have the pressure off of from a business point of view, because they're not really hosting they don't have to go through the whole work of doing the marketing, the promo. They already got the distribution with ESPN's digital things. They got the pay-per-view there with ESPN as well. Everything's set up with ESPN. So in terms of like how many fights a year, it depends. It really, really depends on the fighter and how popular they are, innit?
I guess that some or what the fighters get paid will also have to depend on what the overall impact is for the brand, right? So, for example, if that's their money stream, and they've got no other money stream coming through. And UFC is relentlessly benefiting from that. And obviously, they're putting their health at risk, they're putting their life at risk. You know, I mean, don't get it wrong. Any type of combat sport, full contact, sport is dangerous. It's life threatening. You know, you can pick up an injury. You can worst case scenario, you can drop dead. You know, so a lot of things can happen. And you know, I mean, look on the last fight, McGregor. You know, was it McGregor who broke his leg? Was it?
Yeah, McGregor.
I mean,
broke his leg.
Like he broke his leg, and you see all the time people coming out with all these.
If he was a low ranked fighter that wasn't on McGregor's level, he's probably the richest UFC fighter ever. Like, to be honest with you. But if he was a McGregor, any low ranked UFC fighter that just came in, imagine it was his first bout in the UFC and he broke his leg and he got paid whatever $8,000. I think it's $8,000 flat, and if you take a loss or whatever, it might affect it. Or if you take a win, you get a win bonus or whatever the case may be. But it's not that massive. If you your first fight and you break your leg, you're out for like a year. You can't. You made 8,000 in a year. What are you supposed to do? $8,000 in a year, and then say if you got a kid on top of that, a family to feed. It's not really a lot.
Generally, when you're going to fight, when you're fighting on that stage, you're not going there to make $8,000. You know, you're not going to. You're going to make money, and you're putting a risk. And you
no, but the point is sorry to cut you off, but the point is the fact that imagine if it didn't happen to McGregor, but it happened to a low level fighter that his only way of making money is to fight.
That's true.
That $8,000 he has to survive. If he breaks his leg, he can't earn another $8,000 for a whole year at least.
Do most UFC fighters have a side gig going on? Do they have something else, or is that what they do all day?
I would assume so. Like you're a low level fighter, you're probably not getting fought a lot. You have to make your own promo to an extent. You have to either you have an outstanding record, or you have a really high buzz that you get thrown into like competition, high level cards straight away. Like for example, that Chechnyan fighter that gets compared to Khabib a lot. What's his name?
Kazmat.
Yeah, Hazmat, I think. Yeah,
something like that,
Chamayev or something like that. He had a massive buzz in Sweden. He came into the UFC with I think less than 5 fights, and he knocked out every single.
Is it correct that like fighters are refusing to fight with him? I mean, I've been hearing this everywhere. Like, you know, they're not offering him the fights. He's not getting enough fights.
He wants to fight, but no one's fighting.
He's relentless, yeah.
Bro, he's relentless, man. He's been. I think there was a video going around him tackling like heavyweights, bro.
Wow.
No, bro. He's relentless, bro.
No, but you know, and I also saw these claims about. Just before we started this podcast, you know, I was like, listen, MASOOD's gonna talk to me about Dana White and Jake Paul. Give me some information about it. And apparently there was something about accusing one another of steroids and, you know, sniffing or something, whatever the case was.
Yeah.
And that's a low level activity, isn't it?
From Dana White.
I think just generally. I think obviously one's accused. I believe Jake Paul's accused Dana White of
doing cocaine,
and he's accused them of doing steroids. I mean, you'd think that people at that level don't have the time for that type of. But you know what? It's a marketing ploy, and I think this is something that people can listen to a podcast, can learn something about business. No level of advertisement is bad advertisement. You just need to know how to control it and how to use it in your favor. Making that statement, there's no shadow of doubt Jake Paul knew the reaction that he was going to get and what he was going to do with it.
Were you a respectful fighter when you used to fight?
Look, you know what? Very good question you asked. Look, I affiliate myself with a Japanese mixed martial arts, right? It's called Kudo Daijujuko, right? And you know, I give a shout out to my sensei Anas. You know, I was under his tutelage under 14. One thing I like to tell people. To me, until today, he's like a fatherly figure to me.
What's his name?
Sensei Anas.
Anas.
Sensei meaning instructor. Sensei. Anas, right? He was like a fatherly figure to us. Still is a fatherly figure. And the reason why I say that, we learned more than just fighting from him. We've learned discipline from him. We learned etiquette. You know, he would tell us, and I was quite I enjoyed fighting, I enjoyed training. He was like, listen, if I ever hear you going outside fighting, you're no longer part of the club. You're no longer going to be allowed to be fighting. Oh, wow. And he would teach us a lot of discipline. When we were fighting as well, you know, there were certain etiquettes we'd fight with. You know, if you're fighting and you finish a fight, you can't walk off your dojo facing your back to the fighter. You'd have to go back, looking at the fighter and stepping backwards to show the respect that you're not turning your back. And this is something in some cultures as well, that you don't turn your back to elders, right? But we'd have that in fighting too, right? Or for example, if a fighter gets injured, you know, you're not allowed to stand over the fighter. You have to sit in the corner, look the opposite way, like time out, you know, to show respect, give the fighter some time to compose themselves and get together. So for me, martial arts was more than fighting. It was a mind frame. It was a discipline. It was etiquette it taught you. And I think sometimes a lot of fighters especially young, kids, they wanna fight, and they look for some learn etiquettes and manners through it, and some learn discipline. Some people use it as a weapon. They use it. Okay, I can now fight people. I can now go knock somebody out. I can now go do this. And I think that's the wrong way to go down about. Martial arts is supposed to be etiquette. The whole point is you're not supposed to use it. You're supposed to use it in a very rare scenario, within a confined environment. You use it when you're sparring. So yeah, your question was.
Were you a respectful fighter?
I was. I believe so. I believe I would.
You wouldn't trash talk.
I don't want you. No, that's not possible. I mean, we couldn't. It's not something that we would do.
Be like, oh, bro, I'm gonna knock you out.
No, it was etiquette. It was a lot, because you're going there not to show. You're not going there to kill somebody. You're going there to show who's the better fighter, who has the better technique, who has the better control of things, who has the better it's the best one that wins. But at the end of the day, there's always love.
Yeah,
there's always love.
Because the reason why I'm saying that is I was thinking about respect in MMA, and I remember I think Khabib used to talk a lot about MMA. There's a lot of respect in MMA, and it should always be about that.
Always.
But I would like to pose a question and argue the fact that if Khabib did not fight McGregor, no disrespect to Khabib, no one would know him. No one would know him.
That's true. Look, that's what the question. What you mentioned there is a very valid point. But isn't that the case with anybody? You're always a nobody until you do something exceptional, right? That's the case with anybody. Like, as in, you have certain footballers. Like, I guess once upon a time, Ronaldo and Messi, who knew them? I'm sure there was a time. There was a time after which they made their name, right? Now, what about all the matches they played before then? You would say, oh, well, Ronaldo was known before he started playing for Sporting Lisbon or Man U or something, for example.
No, I guess the point I'm trying to make is the whole the good and evil aspect of the Conor McGregor and Khabib fight led to a lot of interest in who Khabib actually was, because it was almost like a story. You have the showboating showman of Conor McGregor, that took the kind of the evil route, that took the villain route, and people wanted to see, oh, who is actually Khabib? Oh, he's undefeated. Oh, that's funny. Like, that's unheard of. Oh, how has he made his things? Oh, he's a savage wrestler. Like, that's when people started to get to know him because of the fact that it was drawn upon that he was going to fight McGregor, and McGregor, obviously, the whole world wants to see what his next move is going to be. That if McGregor did not fight Khabib, we wouldn't have appreciated that fight or him in general.
That's true.
That makes sense. I feel like every great moment needs another force pushing it back. If that makes sense.
But the part that I'd have to, because look, like you said, one of the biggest driving forces behind that fight was the showboating and stuff like that, right? But my opinion, is that what fighting should be about? I mean, if you look at, UFC's become like that now, where there's a lot of, there's a
no way. Did the phone just break, bro? Bro, once they carry on, it's always something that goes on. Guys, by the way, the phone just broke off the flipping hinge. But we can't record on that.
Nah, we can record.
So give me your what ball?
You can put that straight on. We're good. Cool. Yeah, so we were talking about
before we were rudely interrupted
by the phone.
But by the way, our flipping camera exploded, didn't it? That's why.
The McGregor and Khabib fight. Point I was making was, is showboating the correct way of going about things? Surely it should be based on credit. Like you said, who would have heard about Khabib realizing that he was such a good fighter without that fight? Question is, the guy his fighting ability was crazy, right? Yeah. But yeah, nobody knew about him. And then because there was some villain and story and some disrespect on both sides. I mean, don't get it twisted. Like, as in, I know, McGregor, whatever he was doing, and was quite was a little bit underhanded. But what Khabib did on the day of the fight, I know everybody was, oh yeah, Khabib was gangster and he jumped. It wasn't really like Khabib, and I'm sure he would never be proud of that moment. I'm sure that's a moment that, yes, it's become iconic, that him becoming an eagle and jumping over the thing and smashing a couple of mates up. But I think he himself would be deeply disappointed within himself, because that's not him. That's not the etiquette that he's learned.
Yeah.
And that's not the etiquette he talks about, and that's not the etiquette that he said his father talks about. You see, and that from the discipline, the way they fight and the way they do things, that's not what he would have learned. So I personally think that, though that's what fighting has become now, it shouldn't be the case.
You must have sorted some mans out when you were younger, innit? Fighting must have got you out of some sticky situations.
You know, my mom used to say to me, yeah, when she used to drop me to school, she used to be like, listen, look, I know you're a bit hot-headed, but if you ever come home beating somebody up, you're going to get in big trouble.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important point, that, you know, a lot of...
Did you ever sort man's out?
You know what? My mom's statements would always ring in my ears. Yeah, and I know my mom was not joking.
You gassing it, bro. You the sort man's out, bro.
No,
I'm joking.
I was quite disciplined. I mean, you know what it is? If you are disciplined and you're a respectable fighter, or people know you train, the chances are somebody's going to pick a problem with you are very limited.
Because they don't want to take a chance.
Because they don't want to take a chance. You know what I'm saying? It's not just me. If you think about in your school days, if anybody was known to fight or somebody was good at fighting, very few people would go and pick on that person, because they know. And that's one of the things, like, you know, like one of the, I'm not saying this is the remedy, and I don't want anybody to blast me for this, but when they say, you know, when children get bullied and people get bullied, there's always a certain recommendation from some people that take up a physical sport, take up some boxing, take up some martial arts, take up some gym. Because once you feel confident and other people realize that you're getting confident, the chances are somebody's going to pick on you become limited. And that's not, I'm not making a blanket statement here. I'm just saying for the sake of the question that you asked.
I mean, you work with a lot of kids, so you know, innit?
And a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, no, even though, you know, you might be fighting, people will still bully you. That's true. But when you do a physical activity, the chances are, if you're physical, you'll be confident about yourself. You'll be able to carry yourself a little bit better. You'll feel a bit more confident. You won't feel compromising, you know, situations. So you'll feel it. And I deal with a lot of children. I've noticed that when kids go up that physical ladder, and even girls, for this sake, even boys and girls, are say, you know, they should have some level of physical activity, some level of combat, some level of training in there. It makes them feel a bit important. It makes them feel a bit, you know, confident about themselves.
Yeah, I tell my siblings all the time, like, you guys should take up some physical, like, some self-defense classes. Even, like, the other day when we were doing that get-together with the lads, it was like a social get-together, and we did wrestling as part of it, and it was quite new. I think for a lot of people to be wrestling, A, not in a street fight, B, in a controlled environment, and C, with people that actually care about one another.
That's true.
I think for me it was an eye opener as well. Like, I've never been a physical confrontational person, but I might, bro. This is probably news to you. I might take it up.
Yeah,
I might take up jiu-jitsu, bro. It's actually quite fun.
It's jiu-jitsu. Look, you know, any type of fighting, right?
Yeah.
Number one, it's a very, very humbling experience.
Yeah.
Because when you start to fight, right, and especially when you start the journey, the one thing you learn very quickly is, like, it's not like gym. Right, gym to a certain extent, if you're a beginner and within 4 or 5 months, you know, you can start developing, learning, and, you know, getting better every time. Fighting, it's about consistency. I think there's a saying by Bruce Lee or somebody. I can't remember who it was. Was it Bruce Lee? And I don't know if this is even a quote, but I saw the quote somewhere. But
if you practice a kick, then 10,000 times.
Yeah. He said, look, I'm not scared of somebody that knows 10,000 sticks. I'm scared of somebody who knows who's practiced one kick 10,000 times, you know, and that's what practice fighting is all about. It's all about becoming instinctive. And jiu-jitsu, what we experienced that day, it's a very humbling sport. It's not about what people think it is. People think it's all about going on the floor. They think, like, you know, Khabib, yeah? Okay, let's talk about Khabib for a second. And he does a lot of ground. People think, oh, he's just sitting there, you know, just weighing his body. Do you know how much training it takes to be able to fight at that level on the floor? It is, I'm telling you, it's more than just a workout. I can guarantee everybody watching this podcast, if you can fight on the floor, so 6-7 minutes, 5-6 minutes straight on the floor, you're a decent fighter. You probably take most people on the floor.
Really?
Yeah, you're a decent fighter.
Why is it so hard?
Because the whole person's body weight is on you. And then having to use that strategically, moving around, getting the right locks in, getting the right kinks in, moving your body in a straight. Like, sometimes you think that, you know, somebody's about to, you know, be choked out, but they're not. They're working on something else, you know. You might think that you're about to choke him out, but they'll probably be working on your arm or leg or locking you somewhere else, and something is happening. And it's not about just sheer force, getting up and just trying to jump off. No, it's about moving your body in a certain way, knowing your limitations, knowing what you can hyperextend, not. So it's a very complex one. I highly, and I think I'll take up with you.
Yeah,
I did it back in the day. I did it for a while, and
what's different between Kudo that you do and jiu-jitsu? What's the difference?
Look, Kudo is it's a full combat sport.
The good thing, punched in the face in that.
Yeah, but the good thing about it is that there's a mask. The good thing is that in that fight we have a face mask that covers the entirety of your face.
Okay.
So you don't actually get smacked in your face. You can get knocked out with the impact of it, but it doesn't actually hit your physical face. It has a mask, like an astronaut mask in front of your face.
Okay.
Jiu-jitsu is it's entirely on the floor.
So Kudo is a mix of both.
Kudo is a mixed martial art. So it's a mixture of, so somebody who does Kudo at a high level can probably go very comfortably into UFC. It is an MMA with the addition of just a face mask. So it's a mixture of boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Kochong, all different types of martial arts. A mixture of, it's taking components from everywhere. So you can go into any sport and come in there, basically.
What's the, because I always was curious about this. How fast does it take? So say someone starts from, what's the first belt that you get?
White belt, you start from
white belt. Yeah. How long does it take for a white belt to go to black belt?
Look, the answer to that question is...
Because that's, sorry to cut you off before you answer, because someone says they're a black belt in anything, that's the biggest, like, chip on your shoulder thing. Yeah, bro, I'm a black belt. Like, that's the conversation starter. I'm a black belt at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because, I mean, the only reason I'm always curious, like, okay, you're a white belt. How many belts are there? And secondly, how long does it take to get to a black belt status?
Look, the answer to the question is very difficult. It's like saying, how long does it take you to become a really good footballer or professional footballer? The thing is, you start a white belt, and that's when the instructor, so when it's what you call grading, right? Every few months or every however so long, you'll have a grading session. Grading is like an exam, basically. You'll have an exam. And it will be on the instructor to judge you to think, okay, do you know what? He can move the next belt up, right?
And how is that judging process taking place from a fight?
So there's a few different factors. So in our club, there used to be 3-4 different factors. So it used to be fitness. So you'd have a fitness test. So how many press ups, push ups, sit ups, running. It's like a whole fitness regime that you get tested on. You get tested on technique. So you have it's like shadow sparring, but technique based. So you'll just watch the techniques, and your techniques will be watched. Then you'll have paired sparring. Not paired sparring, paired techniques, where the teacher will ask you to do a certain move, and you'll go to the person and like show them how to do it, and you get examined on that, and then you'd get examined on basically fighting as well. So you'd get paired up with a fighter, or you'll have 3, 4, 5, 6 fights, and it's not just about winning. It's not about always winning those fights. It's about how well you do in those fights. In terms of how your technique is, how your movement was, all that type of thing. So there's a few, and it's on the instructor. So for example, it's not unseen in any martial arts where you have, let's say, someone that's on yellow belt, fighting somebody who's nearly black belt, and the yellow belt fighter might even do the black belt one over. It's not unheard of.
Oh, so a lower belt can tap out or beat
It's possible. I mean, it's not likely, but it can happen.
What's below a black belt?
So that's where I stopped. No, I stopped. That's where
is that brown belt?
Yeah. So that's where I picked up my injury. So I had an ACL injury, and the meniscus ripped my knee up, and that's what I want to make a return to. So I was on brown stripe 2 or 3, I believe. Yeah. So basically, my next one I was grading for my black.
What's the difference in caliber between a high level brown belt and a black belt? Is there like a maybe you put your arm in a certain position, like different or into to do a submission, or is it like a massive stark difference between the two?
I think martial arts is also about consistency and time. Yeah. So what is the difference? But the martial art isn't really looked at like that. You don't really look at, not in our martial arts at least anyways, a brown belt and a black belt, there wouldn't be a huge difference.
Yeah.
Right? But there would be an experience difference. Yeah,
okay.
Because somebody who's gone through all the belts and ended up in a black belt, they've been easily fighting for 5-6 years, 7 years maybe even, right? They've been on there for a very long time, training. So, and as you know, it's a bit like football. The longer you play football, the more you play football, the more experience you get, the more you understand about the game. Did you know? I don't know if you know this, but there's belts after black belt as well. It's called dans.
Okay.
Yeah. So after black belt doesn't finish there, you have dans. So on the black belt, you get stripes on them. So like you have brown belt, you don't have brown belt, you have brown belt stripe 1, stripe 2, stripe 2. So you stay on the same belt, on the same color.
But you level up.
You level up. Yeah. Same with the black belt. You have Dan system. You have a Dan system. So you have Dan 1, Dan 2, Dan 3, Dan 4, Dan 5, Dan 6, Dan 7.
What's above black? Is it sensei level?
Look,
what's
all industry, I don't know the answer to the question.
Okay.
When you start getting into Dans, you're looking at very experienced martial artists. Like my instructor, I think is a Dan 4 or Dan 5,
okay.
Black Dan, yeah. So very experienced. I think at some point he was world champion in Kochong as well. He fought on a really big level. So very few people make it to Dans. Because I'm talking about if you're at Dan 2, Dan 3, you've been in martial arts for at least I mean, maybe I'm making a mistake here, but at least a decade.
Wow.
Now, ask yourself the question, and people viewing this, how many people can say consistent on anything for 10 years?
That's crazy.
You understand? Yeah. Martial art, it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's something you stay there for a long time, it's a lifestyle. You go there, you learn, you experience, you learn new things. Sometimes it's not just that. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn about mental resilience, and you'll notice that as you go up the belts and the higher you go up in the belts, you become more of a calm fighter. So you'll notice people in lower belts, they're more erratic fighters. They look a lot more disorganized. They look a lot more, all over the place type of thing. Like, here's a question for you: what makes a team like, I was gonna say Man U, but I can't say that.
Yeah, not right now, innit? Give it a couple of years. Give it a couple of years.
Yeah, I think that. No, I'm joking. Like, what makes a team like, I don't know, Real Madrid, Liverpool, or a really good team, right? What makes a really good team better than a team like
Swansea
or something like that? They're both professional teams, right? Well, are they not? They've got the same players, not same players. I mean, they've got the same positional players. They've got the same number of. They're all professional footballers. What makes a difference? There's a level of experience. There's a level of technique. There's a level of whatever the case may be, right? So that's with martial arts. You get that in martial arts. So as you go up the belt system, you go up you learn something very about yourself, man. And I enjoy it. And for me, my instructor, it was like a fatherly figure. And still is like a fatherly figure to us. I can pick up the phone to him and say, "This, I want to start," and he would treat us like that. So we learned a lot more than just fighting from him.
Let's do jiu-jitsu together.
Let's go.
I'm interested in jiu-jitsu.
Let's go.
That little taster session that we had the other day. I mean, I kind of volunteered because no one was jumping in as a first fight, and I was like, "Bro, Bonnie, I'll do it." No experience. It was quite fun.
Yes, it is fun.
I tapped because Usman, was it Usman?
No, Zayn.
Zayn didn't have me in a tapping position. But I fully tapped anyways because May was got his whole body weight on me. I was like, "Bro, bond this."
And that's one of the hardest things about jiu-jitsu. It's like what Khabib does. He ties his fighters down. He sits on them, tires them out. Imagine 60, 70 kilos, 80 kilos on your body, just wearing you down, and you're trying to
like
move
20 minutes, bro.
Yeah, and it's exhausting you. And then in that time, you're having to think, and then you've got shots coming out. So no, definitely. And on that note, I remembered something. Did you hear about the whole Djokovic situation? No, you haven't heard about Djokovic?
Obviously, I heard about it downstairs.
Well,
when you don't
basically, and I just wanted to see what your opinion on this is as well. Like, Djokovic, right? Obviously, he's the world's best tennis player, and he had medical exemption from some authorities. I think he was going to play the Australian Open tournament, and because he was medical exempted, there was a big outlash in Australia because they've been very strict about the COVID situation as well, and they've kept it quite low. That why should he be allowed to come in if he doesn't have a vaccination, and he doesn't have vaccination? And I hear, and I don't know, that he's quite outspoken against vaccination. So I think the people kind of give a backlash saying that, look, we're not, he shouldn't be allowed to come in, and the only reason he got a medical exemption was because he's the celebrity he is. What do you think about that?
Is that a fact?
It's a fact. He's in a hotel ready to be deported back.
Is that a fact that he got a medical exemption because of his celebrity status?
No. That's what people are saying. Okay. That the only reason he got that medical exemption. That's what the news is saying. And obviously the Prime Minister, of Australia, she basically crumbled the night before. And so when he came to the airport, they revoked his visa.
So wait.
So should he be allowed to? Should he have been deported?
Wait,
should he be deported?
Was he already? Did they already agree for him to come and play?
Yeah.
And then over the intense pressure from the public, they revoked it.
That's from what I understand.
Listen, bro, you gotta be a man of your word, bro. If you tell me to come play your country, bro, I'm gonna play your country, fam. You know what I mean?
No, but don't you think there's a point there? And I'm not saying this is my opinion. I'm just saying, like, don't you think there's a point there about being above the law? So they said it wasn't sufficient proof that there was medical exemption, or do you think it was a bit harsh? I don't know.
I mean, it depends on how harsh the situation is in Australia for the actual normal working folk. Like, do they have? It's like under any circumstance you need a vaccination. Because to be honest, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like people should be given a choice whether they should take the vaccination or not. It's a choice. You can't. At the end of the day, you cannot force someone to do something. If I force you to do something, whether I could think is the best thing to do all day long, if you don't agree with me, how is that? How can I force you to do it?
that's a very long subject, isn't it? I think we need a whole podcast on like what freedom is and what freedom of choice is. But I think from a government, put yourself in a government position for a second, right? You're the leader of a country or something like that, right? Not saying you're ever gonna be, but I'm just saying. But let's say you're in a leading position.
I'll be a sick leader. What are you about, bro? Sick leader.
Coming up with your dead jokes publicly. The MASOOD hour, the MASOOD dead jokes hour.
Bro, you got more dead jokes than me. You laugh at your own dead jokes. That's the worst part.
That's fun, though, isn't it? But anyways,
someone's gonna laugh at them, innit?
The point is, if you were in that position and everybody had a freedom to do everything, question is, how do you make policy? How do you make something?
It's not about the freedom to do anything. It's obviously you set a standard.
Mm-hmm.
It's better for you to get a vaccination. If these are the reasons why. These are the cons of why. These are the reasons why it's better, because publicly you feel safer. The virus will be less contagious, will be less effective. You more likely to recover quicker. These are the reasons why we strongly recommend you take this vaccine. However, it's an option. It shouldn't be mandatory. Like, you can't tell people, because that's borderline dictatorship.
Which part?
Like forcing people to do something.
No, which point though? As in, are you saying force? I don't think anybody is forcing anybody.
But you said that it's mandatory in Australia to get a vaccination.
No, but they've got conditions. Like, for example, you're not forced to take a vaccine in the UK. You're highly recommended to do it, but you can't enter certain countries if you don't have a vaccination. That's the country policy. As in, fine, you don't want to take it. That's your choice. But then your choice, it has certain consequences.
So then, why the hell did Australia accept the fact that they using it? If their company policy was so strict, why did they accept that he was going to play anyways?
From what I understand, they accepted his somebody clearly accepted his medical exemption, and again, the public or people's argument was that the only reason they accepted it was because of it's going to help with tourism, the industry and business, and because he's coming in, the big celebrity coming in, it's going to help with a number of things. But I don't know. I would love to hear what people's comments are. Do you guys think Djokovic should have been deported from the country?
I know, if you say it like that, then obviously, yeah, he should have been, because you can't make a policy for everyone and then exempt it.
But they accepted him though, and apparently he has medical exemption.
Yeah, but apparently it wasn't maybe his medical exemption in Siberia, bro, but not in Australia, bro. You know what I mean? Like, good shit. Like, you're in a like. No, you can't set a rule. You can't set a rule and then tell 10 of your boys to go follow it, and then the one matey that's an outsider to not follow it because he's not part of the
I don't agree with that. If, let's say, I don't think it was the Siberian, I think it's the authorities that give medical exemptions, generally in tennis maybe. But even if, let's just say for the sake of the argument, it was whichever country from Siberia, where he's from, right? And they gave him the exemption. If they gave him the exemption, that's fine, because you can't, if they gave him the exemption that he, according to our country, is medically exempt from taking a particular vaccination for whatever health reason, then that is the case. That's the case, right? As in, you can't say, well, it's according to us, but not according to you. I think the problem was, I think they were just trying to make a point.
Is there a medical exemption in Australia for normal people as well?
No idea.
Okay.
And no idea.
If there is a medical exemption for Australian citizens, the fact that you don't need to take the vaccine and you provide a medical exemption and then you're not allowed to take it, if that is in place in Australia and they've just going to be deporting Djokovic back for the same reason, then Australia is a bunch of idiots. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's the reason? If that's part of your policy in your country, that if someone provides medical proof and then they don't need to take the vaccine, if that's already part of your country, I don't know if it is. If it is, and then you've done that to now Djokovic or whatever his name is, butchering his name, but then Australia's at fault.
Do you watch tennis?
Who wants to go to Australia anyways, bro?
Do you watch tennis?
Who wants to go to Australia?
Do you watch tennis?
No, I don't. But, bro, it's like they got.
I heard it's a really nice country, but from what I hear, they got crocodiles everywhere.
They got tarantulas everywhere, bro. Why do you want to go there, fam?
I'm scared of
Djokovic, you done yourself. They done you a favor, bro. They're telling you to get out before. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna ask Djokovic to comment on this podcast and say, "Listen, guy, what do you think?"
What's his first name?
I don't know.
But he did bad research, bro.
I'm gonna tell Sofyan to tag him on this podcast.
Like Djokovic, bro. So what's out on there, bro?
And maybe he can let us know his feelings, guys. Everybody tag Djokovic on this video. right, on this podcast, and get him to comment.
What's next? What's next?
No, I think the new menus are dropping, right? They're dropping soon. They're
new
dropping
menus.
real soon.
Well, to be honest, when this podcast comes out, which will be next week,
it might even be out by then.
We might.
Probably will be. Yeah, probably will be.
You said 14th?
Yeah, probably. Like as an, I don't know the exact age. Yeah, probably. Yeah, if that's what's been told,
Your business, you don't know the exact date.
It's been told in it. Look, there's too many things to remember, too many dates to remember, too many dates.
It's the main date, bro.
Look, let me tell you something, guys. Yeah, Masood expects me to have the answers to everything. I don't. But it's I have a lot of things on my head.
No, I understand that.
That decision was made. It was left aside.
You forgot about it.
Yeah,
but next week, guys. Well, not next week, but when you see this podcast, the new menus will be out. You'll be available to order them. 15 new menus, 15 new sauces. Each menu has a bespoke side to them. So basically, you know how we did it before, yeah? We did it before in terms of you'd be able to pick the side, like a bunch of different sides to the menu item that you can pick. But now we realize that if someone doesn't like a particular item, if they get with brown rice as opposed to white rice, it's not going to change the taste of the item.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think that there was also that we wanted to give people more diversification in meals rather than just sides.
Yeah.
So, and I think we've given them. I think we've come up with some really good meals, and I'm not even just saying it. And I've said it every podcast, and I have. But those meals are going to taste nice. I'm really looking forward to them. Sort me out, yeah. But yeah, we.
Why are you to say sort me out your business, bro?
No, we're really looking forward to it. We're really looking forward to that.
No, 100%. Like, you would not understand. Like, we would understand. People would understand the struggle of putting this menu together. We literally came up with a menu. Midway, changed the flipping because we're supposed to have 7 menu items originally. Then we said, "Bunna, we're gonna do 15 and have them bespoke to every side." So basically, guys, you know when you get the meal, it's literally that combination of flavors is bespoke to that meat. That protein and that side can go together because the flavor profiles match.
100%.
You know what I mean? The sauce matches with the side matches with the seasoning of the chicken, and the chicken matches. It all is a nice marriage. It's a happy marriage, bro. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And I just wanted to put it out to everybody that's listening to this podcast, that we are trying really hard to produce some really good meals. And if we meet your expectations, which I think we should be far above your expectations with this menu, then inshallah, let us know. And if you guys want to know any new, things that you want to discuss in the podcast, let us know. We're always looking for everybody to let us know. And if we've said anything in the podcast that you don't quite agree with, we stand to be.
We don't care, bro. We don't care if you don't agree with it, fam. We do not care.
Listen. Ignore this guy. We stand to be corrected. Comment. Let us know. I'm always looking to learn something new. I'm sure Masood is too. Put in the comments. Tell us some of the new facts. Add to this conversation. And let us know what you want to hear about in the next podcast or any of the future podcasts. If you know any guests that would like to come on, you'd like us to interview them, you know what? We're looking forward to that as well.
I'll go guess that we could talk.
Yeah, let's go. And until next time, guys, take care, enough love, and yeah, see you in the next podcast.
Buy the new menu. Peace.